All right, good evening. We'll go ahead and get started. Renee, please show all board members present tonight, and if you'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Millen, I think you have some board salutes tonight.
Yes, sir, and if you don't mind, I'm going to just stand up. Board, as you're aware, not too long ago, we entered into, I think, a good partnership with the City of Jeffersonville and the Feder Auto Group. And it was all in regard to a couple of things. The Clark County Auto Auction property, the Fedders are gifting that to us, as you're well aware. But also, there was a new amended TIF area that the City of Jeffersonville was creating. And really, I have to give credit. We have a couple of city council members here. Ed Sestobny and Scott Hawkins are here tonight. And I really have to give our city council a lot of credit because their goal was to help, sort of bring all the parties together and find a way to come up with a solution that would be beneficial to the City of Jeffersonville. And so the final agreement basically was that the Greater Clark County Schools would get 10% of the new amended TIF over the 25 years of its life. And depending upon what happens as that TIF develops, it's estimated that it could bring in over $400,000 a year. That's not going to happen for a couple of years yet, but it's a very real possibility. And we agreed that what we would do is, by accepting the Feder property, that it would not be utilized as a transportation facility. So in working with the Redevelopment Commission and making sure that they were supportive of this agreement, and in working with our city council, I think it showed that we brought three important entities in our community together. Not always seen eye to eye through the process, but at the end of the day, I think it was a win-win-win for everybody. And so we invited our Redevelopment Commission to appear tonight so we could thank them. We invited city council members so we could thank them. We invited Mayor Moore so we could thank him. Obviously, everyone's very busy, and I respect that. But I'm very thankful that both Ed Sestobny and Scott Hawkins are both here tonight, and board, and also Jerry White, as you know, is our representative on the Redevelopment Commission. And so what we thought we would do is we have what's called a Pride Award. And you know how important our Pride program is to our district and our community. And it's a small token of our appreciation, but Ed and Scott, would you mind coming forward for me? I want to thank you, and thank you, and thank you for all your colleagues for all of your support and your help. Inside this box is a Pride Award, I promise. I wanted to point this out. To us, this is very symbolic. I know it's not a huge token of our appreciation, but it's very, very important to us because, and I know, Scott, as you're well aware, pride represents something very important to the character of every student and staff member in our school corporation. Persistence, respectfulness, initiative, dependability, and efficiency. And these are traits that we are trying hard on a daily basis to make sure are taught to our students and positively reinforced. And I believe that that's what's happened in this case. Due in part to your leadership, both of you, as well as the rest of the City Council, the Redevelopment Commission, Mayor Moore, I really appreciate all parties coming together. So it's a small token to say thank you so much for being a part of making this a win-win-win for everybody. So I wanted to thank you for all of that. I don't know if you wanted to say anything at all, but I wanted to make sure that we acknowledge you tonight.
But I'll just say I appreciate everything that you do for the school system, the board members, all the work that and time you put in, and all the work that educators do to improve our community and educate our youth, to give us the opportunity for a fantastic future Jeffersonville. So thank you for everything you all do.
You.
And I'd just like to echo those sentiments of people in the outside world, me being a school teacher in Greater Clark, and don't have kids in Greater Clark, don't know what an integral part of this is. This is the foundation of the community, without a doubt. And when we can all work together like that to improve the foundation, everything else just works out that much better. So I do appreciate, I do know what the Pride Award means, even though it's a small token, and I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Mr. White, come forward, will you please? Will you sit down?
Call on the floor.
Yeah, Jerry, obviously you're an invaluable part of this board. Also the role that you serve on as our representative for the board to the redevelopment commission. I know that the other commissioners weren't able to attend, but you are there, you're present, you're influential, and again, we wanted to recognize you and give you the Pride Award as a small token of our thanks for everything that you've done as it relates to your work with the Redevelopment Commission. So I want to acknowledge you for that tonight, and thank you so much for all your help.
Just keep lobbying the state to give the school board a vote on redevelopment.
Thanks, you guys. Thank you very much.
And you guys are more than welcome to stay, or we're going to start off the boring part of the meeting, so it's up to you. But anyway, again, thank you so much for your support.
We are all about boring meetings.
Fair enough, fair enough. All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. And do we have any changes tonight?
So moved.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hall,
Second.
and thank you, Ms. Perkins. All in favor? Be 7-0, thank you. Next is the approval of the minutes from previous meeting. We have executive, regular, and special. I'd like to take those together.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. White. And thank you, Ms. Zolman. Any questions, comments on minutes from previous meetings? All right, all in favor? Be 7-0, thank you. Next item is public comments on agenda items. I think we have one tonight, Mr. McLaughlin. Good evening.
Members of the board, administrators, ladies and gentlemen, I'm John McLaughlin, president of the Greater Clark Education Association. I too, first of all, would like to thank you both and your colleagues for your work on the TIF agreement. Every little bit helps, and that's more than a little bit, and we're greatly appreciative. I'm here this evening to speak against the superintendent's recommendation to allocate over $231,000 from the rainy day fund for professional development connected to the Ford NGL program. Back in May, I addressed this board concerning that program. I said that based on the Ford NGL mission and vision, and if properly implemented, it seemed worthwhile. I also asked that you be active in finding funding sources and concluded by encouraging you to investigate how this program could play out in Greater Clark. The administration then made its pitch for the program. The question of funding was addressed in that pitch. Indeed, this board specifically asked about funding. The board was assured that $59,000 in donations would be used to pay for Ford trainers and support to be used this summer to train 160 teachers. It was also said that professional development was going to be paid for by grants. When a question was raised about grants, a school improvement grant in the amount of $40,000 was named as a source of funds for this summer's training of 160 teachers. Now you're being asked to allocate every penny of $231,770.89 from the local option income tax, which dropped into our rainy day fund last month. In fact, the rainy day fund has grown to over $4.3 million in the past several weeks. Educators struggle to understand your priorities. A year and a half ago, we had a $3.5 million general fund positive balance and a $3.5 million rainy day fund balance. As a result, we received a raise that this administration was contractually obligated to pay. Over the past year, we have been reminded repeatedly of how that 2.5% raise, which as an aside, was the first one in 8-year span, which saw continued increases in everything from groceries to health insurance. We're reminded how that raise was a $1.3 million hit against the general fund. We are also reminded that the loss of 220 students this past year is a $1.2 million hit against the general fund, all totaling $2.5 million. Simple math would seem to show that a $2.5 million hit against a $3.5 million balance leaves $1 million. Now, however, we are told that we have gone another $3.5 million further toward the red to show a potential $2.5 million deficit. While I'm sure a reason will be provided that my simple math may not apply, the fact that you are predicting a $2.5 million deficit and at the same time seem willing to spend almost $250,000 from the rainy day fund on a program that we have not even for sure yet been accepted into does not add up. We are coming to a crossroads in this corporation. Neighboring corporations are starting teachers at considerably higher salaries than we pay. Strong mid-level experienced educators are leaving us for what they see as other opportunities. We need to be focusing on our future with respect to compensating our educators, and to allocate almost $250,000 to one-time PD payments sends the absolute wrong message at this time, particularly when your educators are 3 pay levels behind what comparably experienced educators in neighboring districts receive. We have continued regularly to borrow under the Common School Loan Program. Perhaps funds from this program or something similar could be used to fund training. Perhaps some of the 338 business partners that are committed to our CCR programs could step up. $1,000 per business would be $338,000. I submit that these or other options should be explored before current credit card funds are allocated. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have 5 items tonight. I'd like to take those together.
Move to approve
Thank you, Ms.
consent agenda items 1 through 5.
All right, thank you, Ms. Gilkey,
Second.
and thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions, comments on consent agenda tonight? All right, all in favor? Be 7-0, thank you. Ms. Kraft, would you kindly take us through gifts?
It is my turn again.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is back to Dr. Mellon for a minute. I think he...
Thank you, Mr. President and Board. I would just like to take a second. One of the individuals that you've approved tonight is going to be our new assistant principal at Parkwood Elementary. She comes to us from New Albany, Floyd County Schools, where she was an instructional coach at the elementary level. She had also done an administrative internship. And Brooke Schleiss, correct? I'd like you to stand to be recognized. Welcome to the Greater Clark family. Brooke, you have a family with you there maybe, or you want to introduce them? Well, welcome. It's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for allowing your mom to become, and your wife, to become part of our family, and I'm sure she's going to be very busy, but we're also honored to have her as part of our team, so thank you so much.
Welcome aboard. All right, Ms. Kraft, gifts to buildings, would you take us through that, please?
I thought you were going to say I could say something good about Parkwood.
Well, you sure can.
Okay, it just worked right in there, didn't it? Okay, it looks as though we have $8,100, and it's good for summer. We've done very well, I think. A lot of people believe in us, and we are anxious to hear how the Scotland trip went and how I keep receiving little pictures on my iPhone of, well, that we're in Austria today and we're in Paris this day, and I'm thinking, okay, I can't wait to see what happens when the band gets back too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very exciting, and thank you to everyone who contributes to Gifts to Buildings. We appreciate that, and I will make the motion that we accept it.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kraft. And thank you, Ms. Zolman. Any questions, comments on gifts to buildings? All in favor? Be 7-0. Thank you. We have, looks like 11 action items tonight, first being the Ford NGL MOA. So, Dr. Mellon?
Thank you, Board. As you are aware, we have entered into an opportunity to become part of the Ford Next Generation Learning Network, a network of about 35 communities around the country. There are 5 phases to implementing the Ford NGL process. We've already worked through, because of all of our work we've done over the past 4 years, we've already pretty much worked through the first 2 phases. There's a little bit of work to be done. But the main thing is phase 3, which is a master planning phase. And the price for us to work through those phases, to get technical assistance and coaching to work through those phases, is $59,500. I promised you that I would bring the memorandum of agreement back to you when I had the dollars secured from our community to pay for this. In addition, we did do training this summer. We utilized some grant funds to help us train about 80 teachers, and the Freshman Academy concept was part of that process at the high school level, but it was highly effective teaming. This money, this $59,500, is the cost to phase the first 3 parts of the Ford Next Generation Learning process. The Freshman Academy was about another $5,800 of cost. That's actually the start of what's called phase 4 implementation. And those dollars will also come from the community dollars that we've raised. We've raised $66,000. We've raised it from 7 different community organizations. And the part of the agreement is that the One Southern Indiana will be the convening organization. And their board has already voted and agreed to become that convening organization. Attended a meeting today where Wendy Dant-Chesser mentioned this partnership and relationship in front of different officials and business leaders from around the area. It was a meeting with the economic development coordinator or director for our state, and so I was very honored that she would mention that. So I do think that as we go down the road, the rest of the phase 4 implementation, we don't know what that price tag is going to be yet. They're working on that. A lot of it will be dependent upon the master plan that we'll be developing over the course of the next several months, of which we'll have representation from this board as part of that process. So tonight, I'm asking you to approve the agreement with Ford Next Generation Learning that will allocate $59,500 of community-generated funds to support that agreement. That will work through the first 3 phases plus the initial Freshman Academy implementation. Freshman Academies, as you know, will be implemented at all 3 high schools this school year, and that was driven by the administrators and teachers at all 3 of those buildings.
I'd like to make that motion.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kraft.
Second.
And thank you, Ms. Perkins. Do we have any questions, comments, discussion on
Yeah,
NGL?
Dr. Mellon, I know if, in the past, if we've signed a contract with Coca-Cola, we get product, we get some financial support from Coca-Cola, and we've thrown the Ford name out there quite a bit. Are they giving anything on this besides staffing, or is there any financial reimbursement or from the Ford company itself?
One of the things that's already happened is they look at our size of community and school corporation as unique to their network. We're probably going to be one of the smallest districts and communities in their network. And so they see us as a model for their network. And so they have reduced the cost in the first 3 phases somewhat to accommodate that. But the other part of it is once you get to phase 5, which is the model, you become the model program, then people start coming to you. And when people come to you, it's like when we went to Nashville and visited Nashville. You know, people by the hundreds were going to Nashville at least twice a year, and they were paying to learn from what was going on in that school system. And so what will happen is the investment that our community is making now in the phase-in should come back to us or start coming back to us once we reach that model phase, which takes about 2 years, about this, after you get into the second year of implementation. So I think that we'll start to, and the other aspect is, we're one of 35 communities around the country, and so as we continue to market ourselves as a school corporation and market what this is going to bring to the table in terms of generating, hopefully, more student enrollment, the commitment we're making to provide the professional development for our teachers and our administrators, I hope that it will pay dividends in a lot of ways.
Dr. Mellon, I do have one question. Our convening organization is One Southern Indiana, but also, as I was reading through the contract, we have a responsibility to name a district person to work with One Southern Indiana. Has the administration narrowed down who that person will be yet?
The initial phase of it through the master planning, Wendy Dant Chesser will be the community coordinator because she's the president of One Southern Indiana. So she'll start out working through the master planning phase as that person. That doesn't mean she'll stay in that role beyond this next year. I will be the district's contact during that same time frame. And then after we get through the master planning, part of the master planning is looking at roles and structures and responsibilities. And that's when we'll look to perhaps make a transition in who that will be.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, further questions? All right, all in favor? Be 7-0, thank you. Next is the resolution to adopt internal control standards. Dr. Dykle, good evening.
Good evening. This is something totally out of the blue that hit school corporations upside the head. These are things that we normally do, but because of all the corruption that's been going on lately in cities and schools and towns and counties, I guess the State Board of Accounts decided that we need to really put this into official resolution form. So, with that said, the State Board of Accounts has informed all Indiana schools that they will have to develop internal control standards and train appropriate staff of these standards. The business office, food service, payroll, and HR departments have all watched this video. It's a 26-minute video, which basically has PowerPoint slides pertaining to this new procedure. Also, everyone has to sign a document that they have viewed the video, and the documents will be presented to the State Board of Accounts at their next audit for verification of the procedure. What we have to do is, what we normally do, I back up you, you back up me, we have to write it all down. So we're going to have to put together a book that will be sent to the State Board of Accounts. When they come back, they will verify that this is being done properly. In August or September, it's really going to be in August, we just set the date, we'll have an annual meeting with all of our extracurricular treasurers to review their extracurricular accounts. We've reviewed those, and we'll be sending letters out to them. We've also had various departments make presentations to them at this time. We have HR, payroll, we have food service, and my department will all make different presentations. At this meeting, they will view the video and sign the same document that they have seen it, verifying that they've seen it. We'll collect it. We have to hold all these documents. This new procedure is a very complex document that once we get it completed, will be forwarded to the State Board of Accounts. Training will be done on an annual basis from now on for all of those employees that it applies to. So basically, it's anybody that touches money is going to have to watch this video and sign off on it. That's the new procedure. So in your board package, you have a resolution to adopt the internal controls. That's what we're asking permission to do.
All right, thank you.
So move.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Second.
And thank you, Mr. Hall. Any questions for Dr. Dykle on internal control standards?
Actually, I have a question for Sandy. Are we going to need to also develop a policy relative to internal controls?
I think all they said was we just need a resolution.
Okay.
So that's why we presented this, and we have to get it done before August. So
Okay.
we're scrambling.
All right.
I don't think you should feel too badly about the State Board of Accounts. I have a tiny short story. In the 80s, when I was a member of the school board, they decided that they should audit my husband and I because they didn't believe we had 7 children. So I had to bring a portrait of the family. Yes. So it's interesting what they think is important. I swear I did raise that many kids.
We have the auditors in our building now, and they've been here for a couple months. And I talk to him all the time about this, and he says, he even sat in on our first meeting, so he knows that we're doing it. So Chris was there, so that was good. So
Yeah.
he says, everybody has to do it, cities, towns, schools, it's everybody.
All right, further questions? All in favor? Be 7-0, thank you. Next is the resolution to bond. Dr. Daigle?
Yes, a new requirement that came out of this past legislative session now requires that all schools to have a resolution showing the bonding amounts for the different employees who handle money for the school district, part of the internal controls. As you can see from the resolution, it covers the treasurer, deputy treasurer, extracurricular treasurers, food service managers, pony drivers, food service, clerical, health coordination, health coordinator, and a blanket bond for anyone else that could possibly handle money. This is a new requirement of the internal control procedures. And on the resolution, it shows all the different dollar amounts. Like my bond is $100,000, Joni's bond is $100,000 as deputy treasurer. Jeff High School treasurer is $75, Charlestown is $50, New Wash is $25, Charlestown, Parkview, and River Valley are all $15, all elementary schools are $5, all food service managers at $1,000, pony driver at $1,000, two clerical food service ladies $2,000, health coordinator $1,000, and then a blanket bond for $30,000 for anybody else. So we're asking permission to approve this.
All right. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins, and thank you, Ms. Zolman. Any questions for Dr. Daigle?
Yeah, is there a fee to bond people?
Oh, yeah.
So per person, per amount bonded?
A couple of board meetings ago, Tony, we put together a list of bonds and everything, and like my bond, I think was $275 for $100,000. That's why I didn't want to raise it any higher, and that was the recommendation. If you're a much bigger school corporation, you could have a $350,000, $500,000 bond. I ended up setting the dollar amount for the different high schools because obviously Jeff High is the highest one, the largest one, and they bring in the most money in their extracurriculars.
Sure.
So on any given, football game, there's a lot of cash going through. So
Does all these fees go to the state or to the county?
Insurance.
these go to the insurance company
Insurance?
for the bonding.
No.
So we pay like our insurance agent for these. There must have been collusion there somewhere.
Any idea what the difference is between what we used to bond and what we're now required to bond from a dollar standpoint?
I can go back and check, but
Okay.
there was an increase in some of the prices too. So let me go back and I'll research that and I'll let
Okay.
you know.
Well, I'm sure they brought extra funding along to cover that
Oh,
then,
of
right?
course, yeah.
Right, okay.
This doesn't say anything
That
about,
always happens. The state always gives us
Yeah.
extra money.
it doesn't say anything about our extracurricular people.
The what?
Our extracurricular people?
Yes.
They-
They're the treasurers, the extracurricular treasurers.
Okay, so you're saying that, that the person, it goes further down than that, not just,
You're talking about
Well,
the
it
person that
goes
collects the money?
I mentioned all the extracurricular, like the high school, Jeff High is 75, Charlestown's 50.
I know that, but I'm just saying all the people who collect money.
That's the blanket bond at the very end.
Okay, thank you.
30,000.
That was what I wanted to know.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Can these bonds be like a bidded out, or do we have to go with a certain insurance company?
There aren't that many companies that will do bonds like this because these are name bonds for the very beginning. So my bond, Joni's, all the extracurricular treasurers, those are all name bonds. We have our ghost group back. It's moving things. Travis, our ghost. So those are all name bonds. Now,
Okay.
we don't have to go with Nice Lukens. We can go to another company if you want. That's fine, but they're our agents, so I just stick with them.
Makes sense. Further questions? All right, all in favor? Be 7-0, thank you. Next is the bid award for contract bus routes.
Yes, the notice of intent to negotiate for school bus transportation / fleet contract routes was published on June 11th, 2016 per Indiana Code 5-3-1-2, Section E, for 3 bus routes. Proposals were opened and negotiated on June 27th. The administration would like to contract the bus routes as follows. Route 19C, daily rate $195 to Teresa Wimsack. Route 20C daily rate $180 to Donna Coomer, and Route 3W daily rate $175.75 to James Douglas Bergen.
So moved.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hall.
Second.
And I think I heard Ms. Kraft. All right, questions on the bus routes? All right, all in favor? Be 7-0, thank you. Next is the authorization to bid the minibuses.
Yes, the administration is asking permission to bid minibuses as follows: Chesterton High School, 3 minibuses; Jeffersonville High School, 4 minibuses; New Washington High School, 2 minibuses; Parkview Middle School, 2 minibuses. You'll notice Charlestown Middle and River Valley are missing, and that was because they were part of the appeal, and we had to pull those 2 schools out of the bond, so they lost their minibuses also. Everything that was associated with River Valley and Charlestown Middle School was pulled by the Department of Local Government Finance. So the funding for these purchases will come from the 2016 bond issue. We just got the $8.1 million in our bank account on June 27th, I think. So,
You really didn't mean Chesterton High
did
School?
I say Chesterton? Charlestown. I'm sorry.
Okay, because I'm not supporting any minibuses for Chesterton.
Well, I know the superintendent.
I know.
He'd be happy.
Yeah. Okay, so you're saying that Charlestown Middle and River Valley cannot have a minibus. So as a result, they're going to have to pay a larger fee for a 66-passenger bus to take the children that could have been hauled on a minibus. And this is punishment for what?
The Department of Local Government took the 3 projects out, remember? It was...
Thanks to a citizen complaint.
The citizen
Yeah.
complaint, yes.
Well, they ought to complain now,
Yeah.
because it's going to cost twice as much. That's
It was a way
ridiculous.
to save money for their school extracurricular funds. That's all it was. And when I talked to the principals at the 3 middle schools, they all were excited about getting minibuses
Yes,
where their
yes.
teachers, coaches could drive them.
Well, plus you have a lot of teams that don't need 66 passengers.
Correct?
But if you have to hire a bus like that, you pay that price.
Yep. Doesn't matter if it's a 66, 72,
That's too
you're
bad.
paying that price.
When you
Let's
have 5
let's hold
kids.
discussion for a minute. Do we have a motion, first of all?
Sorry.
Move to approve.
All right, thank you, Ms.
Second.
Gilpin, and thank you, Mr. Hall. Discussion.
Never mind. Never mind, thank you.
Don't we have
Sad.
more or less a gentleman's agreement that in the city of Jeffersonville, if Parkview Middle School or River Valley, if a mid-bus was available at Jeff High at another school, that they could borrow it, and the athletic directors, they schedule out their transportation lists, and they know the days that mid-buses will be used, and if it's available, somebody could run over and pick one up and use it for a field trip or whatever?
And I think what I want to do is I want to talk to Dave Rarick and look at our existing fleet of minibuses and try to pick out maybe 2 of the better ones, and instead of trading them in, continue to keep them in our inventory if they're not too old. I mean, some of those at Jeff High look
They're
really
deplorable.
nasty.
Yeah.
They are.
So, that's another way we could do it too, also, Tony, by bringing in some of the existing fleet instead of selling it, so.
Further comments, questions, discussion? All right, all in favor? Be 7-0, thank you. Next is the resolution to allocate money for PD for NGL.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Daigle.
Board, here is what this authorization is all about. The $231,000 that we received was a surprise, really, for all school corporations. It's one-time dollars because of legislation related to roads in Indiana. You've already accepted the dollar amount, and it's been allocated inside of our rainy day fund. As you remember, we talked about the promise was the cost of implementing Ford NGL. I would go out and raise the dollars to pay for the implementation, the phases of implementing Ford NGL. And our community has stepped up, and I appreciate your support of that agreement. Part of Ford NGL is needing to train. And I remember the promise that was made to our Teachers Association that if we're going to do this, we have to make sure we make a commitment to make sure that we're providing great professional development for our teachers and administrators. Those dollars have to come from somewhere. So it made sense at the time that those dollars coming from the state, the $231,000, would be there and available to us if and when we need it to pay for professional development costs. Now, here's what can happen. We're not asking tonight that all $231,000 is going to go to professional development tonight, be spent or given to Ford Next Generation Learning to pay for their costs. What we're asking tonight is, as we are billed for receiving training from Ford Next Generation, that we need to have a fund to be able to pay for those costs from. Now, this summer, we trained about, I think it was 80 or 90 teachers, and we were able to use SIG funds, school improvement grant funds, from the state. We will continue to do everything in our power to try to find grant dollars to help us pay for training. But those are very much earmarked. There's no guarantee or promise that we can always get those funds. So we will do everything in our power, first and foremost, to use grant funds to be able to pay for whatever training costs we incur. We'll do that first and foremost. But what we're asking for is, as we're planning professional development, we're going to train 750 teachers and administrators on highly effective teaming. We're not going to be able to train these people during the school day because the effective teaming training is a 2-day training. So we're not going to be able to take our teachers out for two days to get all of that done. We're probably going to end up having to do it on days where teachers are not in school, like we did this past summer. Then that will require us paying stipends to our teachers to receive that training. So the dollars that we'd utilize when we need it would be dedicated to not only the training costs to bring the trainers in, but predominantly the money is going to be used to go to teacher stipends to pay for them to come in and receive the training for those 2 days. Amy Schellenberg is developing a specific calendar for professional development. She'll have it all mapped out. It's not done yet. She's been talking to our coach out of Nashville, Star Herman. It'll all be laid out. We'll present it to you at a future meeting so you can see. But I just think it's important you know that we don't have any general fund dollars allocated for professional development. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right. And we want to make sure our teachers receive the training that they need to maximize their effectiveness. And the training that we received this summer was highly rated by the teachers and administrators who received it. So it's high quality. It goes right into play with our teamwork concept that we need to really focus on this year. We're using DataWise as a process to collaborate, and we want to build more effective teams. By building more effective teams and being stronger collaborators, we're also going to be able to improve student achievement. So this is all about helping our teachers get better at their craft, which will also help all of our students get better. Again, the $231,000 is there for us to use. We have no dollars inside of the general fund to be able to utilize currently. We won't use all the money up front. We'll only use the dollars when we need to. And it'll be spread out probably over a couple-year period, and we'll see what happens with other grants that come our way. And our community partners, I will be more than happy to continue to work with them to make sure that our community is supporting this, because this effort is not just about Greater Clark, it's about our entire community. And I think that we've shown some good faith by bringing forward to you tonight $66,000 of commitment that we earned in about a month's time. And how did that happen? That happened because of the relationships that we've built over 4 years with our College and Careers Initiative. They're ready to step up. They're ready to help. And I will continue, I promise, to continue to go out and work with our community to help generate the funds that we need moving forward. So I just want to make it clear, this gives us permission to have money to pay professional development costs when we need to use those dollars. And to me, it's an investment in our teachers, it's an investment in our administrators, and it's an investment in our kids.
All right, thank you, Dr. Mellon. We have a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins,
Second.
and thank you, Ms. Kraft. Comments, questions for Dr. Mellon?
Yeah, Dr. Mellon, from the way I read this, and I feel comfortable in voting yes for it because, as it says in the background information, if these funds to be made available, and I know you and your team will continue to strive for corporate funding, seeking grants that would maybe pay for it all. We wouldn't have to touch this money. But you have to have something there in case you need it to pay a bill when you need to pay a bill. And the other thing I like about it, from the information I received today, was our teachers will benefit from this, whether or not we move forward with the Forward Next Generation Learning or not. This professional development, the team bonding, we've received positive feedbacks from teachers, administrators, so I feel comfortable with this.
And thank you, Mr. Hall. And the other thing I need to just tell you is we understand how valuable all of our employees are. And we are working diligently to find ways, as we negotiate with all of our employee groups. We're working hard to find ways to make sure that we can show them that we care about them to the point where we financially want to support them. And when we had dollars available a year or so ago, we made those dollars available to all of our employees, all 1,400. We will continue to strive to find ways to make sure that our 1,400 plus employees are compensated fairly. We know we need to do it. And as we've been involved in bargaining with all of our employee groups, we've tried to share with them that we're committed to doing that. We showed them in the past that when we have the dollars, that we will make sure that we give them what they've earned. I promise you that we'll continue to do that for all of our employees across our district. We're only as good as each and every employee that we have. And so I think, and I'm hoping that you'll see that over time, not only will we continue to enlist community to support and other grants to help fund this whole initiative, but I also hope that you'll see that we'll be able to adequately support our staff over time as well. I know how critical and important that is.
I think, if I'm quoting this correctly, I heard that, I think it was in one of the trainings or something, that, sending our teachers into, or having our teachers participate without professional development, asking them to go in blindly without the support of professional development is malpractice. Mm-hmm. And I firmly believe that. And so I'm thankful that this windfall, if you want to call it that, came along when it did, because we would be struggling to try to find the monies to pay our teachers.
Thank you.
Well, and Dr. Mellon, I remember some previous meetings where we had principals, we had the GCA, we had administration, all tell us that this is the right thing to do. And the GCA, I think I heard loud and clear, and I totally agree that we're willing to do this, but we have to have the training to do it, which I totally agree with that, as Ms. Perkins alluded to. So, again, we've got a one-time amount of money that we can put towards this if we choose to do that. And, I'd love to be looking at that at salaries and all, but it's a one-time, not sustainable amount of money. And so if you can't give it over and over and over again, then what's the next best thing you do? And I think that's that you invest in your teachers and the personal development. And, the stipends, the trainings, and I think it's an investment in our teachers, and I think which should translate to better instruction for our students. And so I think this is the right thing to do. So. All right, further questions, comments? All in favor? Be 7-0. Thank you. Next is policy 343701, military service credit, first reading. No action tonight. Good evening, Ms. Lewis.
That's correct. Good evening. If you will remember back in 2014-15, the board approved a policy for military service credit for certified staff up to a 4-year maximum for any person who had completed an approved bachelor's degree in education training before, during, or after induction into active duty military service. This is a policy that we didn't have when you adopted the Neola policies. It's more unique to Greater Clark County Schools. We believe it still is an important component because it does allow those persons with that type of military service to get the salary credit based on years of service for their military service. So you have a draft of the policy. In reviewing this evening, I think there's a few grammatical changes that I will make to better clarify it. We won't go for past the 14-15 school year retroactively because that's where we began the implementation, and you don't have to vote on it this evening, but if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the University of Louisville Student Practicum Agreement. And Ms. Schneff, good evening.
University of Louisville has reached out to us and asked us if we would help them train their speech and language people, which, if you remember, that's kind of a tricky thing for us because we're constantly changing people. But we also have a lot of people who have been here a long time, and they do a very good job. And so we would be placing some of the students with those practitioners. And I'd just like your permission to go ahead and join in this partnership with them.
Great. Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey.
Second.
And thank you, Ms. Zolman, I think. All right. Any questions, comments?
Can also be a great recruiting tool.
I'm hoping that that's what it's going to be.
All right. All in favor? Be 7-0. Thank you. Next one is the Maryland Friend contract.
Yes, this is a renewal. Basically, every year we try to have co-teaching as a focus in what we do with our kids with disabilities. This is especially important now because, as you know, the state has said to us, in some of our schools, we are not practicing the least restrictive environment, so we're working hard to get more co-teaching happening so that kids with disabilities could be served in the regular classroom as opposed to being pulled out into a special education classroom. That takes training, and we've been very fortunate to have a relationship with Maryland Friend for the last several years. She is top of the line in terms of a trainer, and all the feedback we get annually on her is very positive. We've used her in the past not only to help with some of our training, but also to do some on-site coaching. So it's been positive. This year, we've kind of reduced that, and we're just asking for 2 days of training with her and for this summer.
Okay. We have a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Perkins, thank you.
Second.
And Ms. Graff for the second. Questions, comments?
Yes, what fund is this paid out of?
This will come out of federal funds.
Okay. Further questions? All in favor? Be 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the 2016-17 High School Athletic Handbook, and that is Dr. Griffin. Good evening.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Earlier this summer, the high school athletic directors and myself sat down to review our athletic handbook for this upcoming year, and we needed any revisions or updates that were needed. We took care of it at that meeting along with the input from our high school principals. At this time, the superintendent recommends approval of the 2016-17 high school athletic handbook.
All right. Thank you.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Second.
And thank you, Ms. Kraft. Any questions for Dr. Griffin? All
Now,
right.
there was, I think Tony brought something up about a change in the law. Did we get that into our handbooks?
Yes, ma'am, we did make that
Okay.
addition.
And it has to do with physicals?
It does have to do with physicals. In the past, only physicians were able to administer and sign off on physicals. Now that's been expanded a little bit to both nurse practitioners and, I'm trying to remember what the
Physician assistants?
Physician assistants.
Okay.
Which does give us more flexibility and parents more flexibility.
Good. Thanks, Tony.
I like the underlined portion, privilege, that it is a privilege to be an athlete at a school, yes. And they need to know that.
Yes, ma'am.
Further questions? All in favor? B7-0, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Griffin. Next is the U of L Research Foundation to participate in the First Step Next in Home-Based Intervention Research Project. Dr. Hartledge, good evening.
Good evening. Board, we have been approached by Dr. Andy Fry with the U of L Research Foundation. He has been working for several years to try to get this project funded, and it is an opportunity for us to voluntarily participate in some free professional development for our district, and he's going to be doing this with Jefferson County, Oldham County, and if you approve this tonight, we would be a part of it. And basically, he has come, he's talked with our principals, he's recruited teacher volunteers in grades K through 3. And as you know, our students come to us with a variety of needs, and more, one aspect that we see as an obstacle in their learning is behavior and adjusting to a school setting. And so this is an opportunity. It is a study that the children would be randomly assigned. The teachers that volunteer, they would be assigned to one of 4 groups, and that includes training, direct training in the classroom. There's a home-based component. Some students would be assigned and receive both, and that includes some parent training. And then some students would be a part of that, and they would not receive any of the treatments. And then, of course, there's a comparison to see, but it gives our teachers an opportunity, those that get selected for the random assignment of those 2 control factors, to increase their knowledge in dealing with behaviors and also supporting our parents as they try to handle that. So the purpose of the project is to conduct a study to determine how effective the First Step Next and home-based interventions are for improving social, behavioral, and academic outcomes to support learning, and to identify the utility of interventions or to the degree to which they are feasible and practical for implementation in schools. First Step Next is a collaborative intervention program delivered by a behavioral coach and lasting approximately 3 months in grades kindergarten through 3, and is designed to help at-risk children get off to the best start possible in their school careers. It includes a direct social skill instruction component and a classroom management component. Home Base is a home visitation intervention designed to improve parenting skills. Children will be randomly assigned to one of 4 experimental groups. Participation in the program is completely voluntary at all levels. And we had an amazing response from our teachers who wanted to be a part of this. And it is available to all of our schools. And we just had one that elected not to participate right at this moment. So the contract there tells you specific research components about the program.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey.
Second.
And thank you, Mr. Hall. Questions, comments for Dr. Hartledge?
Dr. Hartledge, I would like to make a request. In the university's responsibilities, one of those is to provide a year-end performance report to Greater Clark administration. I would then like to request that we also get a performance report so that we can see what the research has shown.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I don't think that would be a problem.
Okay, further questions? All in favor? B7-0, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hartledge. All right, that concludes action items. We're into reports request. Any board reports or requests tonight? No? And Dr. Mellon, no public comments on non-agenda items?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, board comments. Mr. White.
I have nothing, thank you.
All right. Ms. Perkins?
I saw in the paper that we participated in the YMCA
Summer Scholars Program.
Summer Scholars Program, thank you. it looked like it was pretty exciting for those kids and for us, so maybe we can get some information on that soon. Oh, you're going to do it tonight? Okay.
No, no. But I would just have to tell you, I was lucky enough to be at their recognition program at the end, and I'm just telling you, the relationship, I appreciate Dr. Griffin's work, working with the Y, that partnership was great, but the relationships between the students and the staff was absolutely off the charts. I mean, what a great program it was. And so Dr. Griffin will facilitate a presentation for you at our next board meeting to give you some more information. But thank you for bringing that up.
All right, Ms. Ullman?
Well, I would like to recognize the lady that's going to be our assistant principal at Parkwood. Thank you for being here. And I kind of started off thinking, golly, I do not want school to start this early. I'm just kind of old-fashioned, you know, and thinking, all right, mid-August is good. And then I had all these little kids come up to me at the fair and at different places and told me how excited they were that school was starting. So
Those were little kids, right?
I have to get myself acclimated to school starting because the kids are really excited about it. So good luck for school starting.
Thank you.
They're ready.
Okay. Ms. Kraft?
Okay. This has been a really bad month for us. And I am an arts person, as you know. I'm a fine arts person. But I have discovered a song by Garth Brooks, and the lyrics are absolutely perfect for the sad time that we're enduring. And it talks about people loving people, just loving people. That's it. And so here are the words. Pass them out. Y'all don't have to sing it, but please read the words. And I didn't even get to go to the Garth Brooks concert. But anyway, the words are very, very special, and I think we need to reflect on that for a while. And that's all. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kraft. Mr. Hall?
Thank you, Nancy. Looking forward to Thursday, get to sneak peek at JJ and PR, some renovation things that's been going on this summer. Money well spent. Looking forward to that on Thursday.
Okay. Ms. Gilkey?
I just want to say hello to Colonel Benning. We don't get to see you that often, so it's nice of you that you were joining us tonight. Hope you're having a great summer. We are. Good. That's all.
All right, thank you. I have nothing. Dr. Miller?
Again, Mrs. Ullman was just bringing up the start of school. Our administrative team reported back to work yesterday, and we have all kinds of professional development and new teacher orientation, and that's always an exciting time when we have new faces join our family, so we appreciate that. And as you know, our e-learning conference is Monday, July 25th, and I know you know you're invited to attend and to register for that if you have not already. And then on the 26th will be opening day at Charlestown High School, and we're going to try to keep the program a little bit shorter this year so we can give people more time in their buildings. So I'm going to try very hard to keep my comments under control. Yeah, I know. But I'm going to work at it, so we're going to try to do that. Yeah, I know there's a lot of comments. I've got it. But that's a challenge. I always respond to challenges.
I have a question, or I guess a need that I need to know. Is there any way that we could, when you do the updates on Friday, at the bottom list what professional developments are available? And if so, could we be welcome to come to some of those?
Yeah, we'd be happy to list those and make a note. If you ever have an interest, just reach out to Renee and let us know. But we'll make sure they're listed for you, and then just reach out, because if you're interested in attending, we're more than happy to have you.
And Dr. Millen, at Charlestown, that opening day, could we please set, I think we talk about it every year and we forget about it, and face the faculty, the staff, so when we acknowledge 30-year, 20-year, that we could see them?
Sure.
Instead of
having to look at me to the front of the,
Yeah, well, we can turn back around,
I got you.
but look at you.
sure. Yeah, we can, I get that. That's not a problem. Good. We'll make sure that happens. And then, of course, first day for students is the 28th. We have back-to-school nights, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that week, so here we go. And it is an exciting time as we get started, so thank you, Board.
Could we also be told when the new teacher orientation is? So I like to attend that. Okay, thank you.
All right, last item is adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins, and thank you, Ms. Zolman. All in favor? All right, good night.